Six Flags over Georgia. This theme park is actually my home park, and there's 11 different rides that I've ridden here that I really enjoy. It's to the point where I have a season pass. I love going to this theme park. But here's the thing. Who really cares about anything at a Six Flags park other than the roller coasters? Is their food really that good? No. Do they have good dark rides? I mean, Justice League Battle for Metropolis here at Over George is actually pretty good. But other than that, the only thing that matters at a Six Flags park is the roller coasters. So that's why I'm going to be ranking all 11 rides that I've ridden there here in this video. And I'm actually a veteran, so if you want to take my word for it, please do. The reason why I'm not ranking all 12 rides here is because I haven't been able to ride Kid Flash Cosmic Coaster because they're terrible. But anyway, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you enjoy these kinds of videos and be notified by hitting that notification bell. Let's get started with number 11. Okay, so at number 11, I have Joker's Funhouse Coaster. This is a kiddie ride, so it's not really going to go any higher, any lower on my list, or on anybody's list if they ever did this. It's number 11. It's just a small little kids ride. It has good theming, but other than that, it's just a little kids ride. Little kids enjoy it. Once you get a little older, it kind of hurts. The lap bar is a little tight, so... But yeah, other than that, good ride for little kids. I'd recommend it if you're young. Okay, so at number 10, we have Dahlonega Mine Train. This is a smaller ride. Once again, this is probably more of a kiddie coaster, but it is still not too bad. It's very rough, so that's the only huge complaint I have here. I don't really complain about these little smaller rides, but, this ride came out in 1967. It's very old. It is the oldest ride in the park, probably, unless one of the rides on here that is bigger beats it out. But, this ride's pretty good. It's just a smaller ride. I don't have too many complaints for it. Obviously, probably my favorite part is the drop at the end into the tunnel. That is definitely the best part. But, I just think the ride is all around good for kids, but it is really rough. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Dahlonega Mine Train. And, another downside is there's no real theming. It's kind of just, a mine train from Georgia. And I wish they would have put, Dahlonega has a mine. So I wish they would have put, mine theming into it, but they didn't do that. That's all right, though. Kiddie Coaster, number 10. All right, at number 9, we got our first big ride. This is Blue Hawk. And this is in, the further back section of the park. And, this is a bit rougher of a ride. It's not as rough as it used to be. This used to be called Red Ninja, and it was one of the roughest rides ever. But, it's not like that anymore. Blue paint, better trains, all of that. Still rough, though, so it's at number 9. The other rides kind of beat it out. This used to be at my number 7 spot, but after getting re-rides on the other rides pretty recently, I definitely will say this is not the best ride. The best part of the ride is the double corkscrew that you're seeing right now. Yeah, good ride, but it's just not really as good as it could have been. I feel like it could have been less rough and more fun, and it didn't use the lake or the pond as much, so number 9. Okay, at number 8 here we have Georgia Scorcher. I have a love-hate relationship with this ride. It is a B&M stand-up coaster that was kind of crammed into the front of the theme park. I feel like it was just kind of crammed there. It's a good ride, but it just feels a little tight whenever you're riding it. It feels like you're going to hit, everything you see. But, it's a good ride. They made this ride in 1999, so it's been here for a while. And they changed the coloring of the track from yellow to red, which was smart. I think the best part of the ride is either this wave turn or the corkscrew, for sure. Overall, it's not the best ride in the park because it's a bit smaller. And, it's the only ever B&M stand-up that I've ever done. And I think it's one of the better ones because usually they aren't that great. And this one still has some better features. And, number 8 ride in the park. I think the other 7 beat it out. And also the restraints are a little unforgiving whenever you're a little too tall or you're standing wrong. So, yeah, number 8 in the park. Good ride overall. All right, at number 7, we have Daredevil Dive. I was debating on putting this at 8 and putting Georgia Scorcher at 7, but I feel like I had a bit better of an experience on this one over Georgia Scorcher. But the complaints that I have are after that first drop, or the lift hill on the first drop, I feel like it's just a bunch of turns until you get to the 0G roll. The 90-degree lift hill is really good, and I just feel like it's a bunch of turns after that. And there was absolutely zero reason for a brake run on this ride, by the way. They should have just put a hill right there or something else like that. But they put a brake run. That was a little annoying, but this ride is okay at best, honestly. I think all the rides that are not in the top six are just good, but they're not great. And I think Daredevil Live is one of them. I think it has some pretty good elements. The theming is actually pretty good, but the capacity is pretty terrible, so I wouldn't recommend doing this on a busy day, but do it if you can. Okay, at number 6, I have the Riddler Mindbender. This is one of the Schwarzkopf loopers that is pretty unique. I think Schwarzkopf loopers are a little underrated. I feel like they're not really that common anymore. Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas is very well known, but other than that, I feel like the Schwarzkopf loopers don't get the credit they deserve, and I think the Riddler Mindbender is a great Schwarzkopf looper. I think it also has other elements that some rides like Shockwave don't have, like this left turn right here. It drops into a left turn, and it's actually really good. I actually really like it. And they have another drop right here. It's a good drop. I think overall this ride has great elements. They just retracted and repainted the track, so I think that's good. But with that retrack and some theming and extra stuff, this part right here came with it. A complete stop. Luckily, this does not happen anymore. It did whenever the ride was redone and retracked, but luckily they just recently fixed it to where it only trims it a little bit because people were complaining about it. But the original ride was a little bit better due to the fact that there was no trim, so the loop was a little bit more intense. But other than that, I think this ride's great. I think for the third time I'd ever done a loop roller coaster, this was great. I think this ride was pretty interesting for someone who had never done a ride like this, and I would recommend riding this. This is definitely a great first looping ride. So number 6 ride in the park. No complaints about this ride at all. So moving on to 5. Okay, so at number 5 here we have Great American Scream Machine. This ride is a old wooden roller coaster that came out whenever the park opened. This was the first big thrill ride, and I had originally ridden this in 2016 whenever I was younger, and it was really rough. I came back in 2024 expecting to be really rough, but it was actually really good. I was really surprised with how it was. I was expecting to be really rough, and it ended up being perfectly fine. And to the point where there actually was some good airtime and some good moments. The first drop is great. All the drops are good. And they retracked it recently, so that was also a huge help. Riding this in the back row, you get thrown over some of these hills really fast, and it kind of whips you. So that's good. The restraints are fine. Everything's perfectly fine about this, but obviously it is a bit more boring than the other 4 rides, excuse me. So I would just put it at 5 here. I think it's a little bit better than Mindbender because it just has more airtime and just some better elements and moments, the bunny hills. But the only complaint is the brake run is really tough. So, the brake run, it slams into the brake run really fast, and it's to the point where you have to, grab something. That's how bad it is. So you have to, grab the stuff in front of you to not hurt your head. So that's the only complaint. Good ride. Definitely a number 5 ride in the park. Moving on to the top 4. Okay, so at number 4 here we have Batman the Ride. This ride is in the DC section of the park, and this is probably the best theme ride out of any ride in the park, and also one of the more intense rides. It's not the most intense ride, but it is one of the more intense rides. It is a B&M invert. There's a lot of versions of this around the country and some different styles around the world, but this specific B&M invert is pretty simple. It has, the loop, the 0G roll, the loop, and then the turns into the corkscrews. It packs a punch, though. And specifically this one, the people at the station are running this thing so fast. If this is a 2-train ops, you're getting on there in at least 15 minutes, probably max, because those people are getting people on and off quicker than quick, faster than fast. They are hauling 1,000 people a day at this point. But overall, I think it's a great ride. I think it's the number 4 in the park. Best theme ride, like I said. And, I would highly recommend riding this ride if you never have, because it is an experience that you will not forget. Moving on to the top 3. Alright, so at number 3, we have Superman Ultimate Flight. There are 2 versions of this that I know of at Six Flags Parks. One of them is at Great Adventure in New Jersey. And yeah, this ride is great. It is a bit shorter. I feel like there could have been more elements, but this pretzel loop, man, it is very intense. The reason why I said Batman the Ride's not the most intense ride is because of the pretzel loop element. That thing's just so intense, especially in the back row because you're getting whipped straight down. And yeah, that thing is crazy. I think there are some good elements on the ride, like the roll, but I just feel like there could have been another element, and they didn't do another element. Once again, they didn't have an insanely large plot of land, but I feel like they could have done more with this. This is probably the second best themed ride because it's themed around DC, and I feel like all the DC rides are themed well. But, yeah, I would say this is the number 3 ride in the park, probably due to its intensity. I ranked it higher than Batman, but you could put this at 4 and Batman at 3, and I wouldn't be mad at you. But that pretzel loop is just unbelievable. So it is at number 3, moving on to the final 2. Okay, at number 2, we have Twisted Cyclone. This is the first time I had ridden an RMC, and I was pleasantly surprised. Honestly, I saw this ride, and I was like, dang, this is kind of a small ride. But I came off of it really surprised, but I wanted more. It's really short for an RMC, but it's still a great ride. I think it packs a punch. I think the elements are great. I think the wave turn's really good. The first drop, the 2 loops, the airtime hills, and the zero-G roll are all great, but I feel like if they extended this a little more, this could be in the conversation of a top 15, possibly top 10 RMC. If it was as long as Air Force One, I mean, it would be a top 10 RMC in my opinion. That might be a hot take, but I'm just saying that because if they made this ride a little bit taller, I mean, this would be the best, ride in the park. Even though I think the number 1 ride is great, I think I would take a 200-foot Twisted Cyclone over, the number 1 ride in the park, in all honesty. So, yeah, this is the number 2 ride in the park. Great ride. The lap bars are a little uncomfortable, but, I mean, other than that, no complaints. Good theming all around, for an RMC and for Six Flags. But, yeah, number 2 ride. Let's move on to number 1, the best ride at Six Flags over Georgia. And the number 1 ride at Six Flags over Georgia is Goliath. This is their B&M Hypercoaster. This is considered one of the better B&M Hypers, even though it's a little rattly. It's a great ride. It uses its terrain very well. It's a strong B&M Hyper. I said that if, Twisted Cyclone was longer and 200 feet tall, it would be better than this. But, looking at it now, maybe not. But, I mean, this ride is great. It has great floater airtime. It has, great, pretty intense helix. Good camelback hills. I really enjoyed this ride. I've ridden this ride more than any ride ever. And somehow one of the best parts of the ride is getting ejector airtime on the last hill. Right before the brake run, there's a little ejector hill. It gives you a little bit of ejector airtime. That's pretty funny. But, I think this ride's a great ride. Obviously, it's a smaller B&M Hyper. But I really, really like this ride. I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. Some people give it its credit, but this is a really good ride. And I really enjoy it. The restraints are great. The trains are good. It's a longer train, so it makes the lines a little less longer. So, yeah, great ride. Uses its terrain very well once again. Definitely the number 1 ride in the park. And once again, I would ride this ride over and over and over again because even though it's a little rattly, it still feels smooth. So, yeah, definitely the number 1 ride in the park. Moving on to the ending credits. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoy these kinds of videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel to be notified whenever I make another one. Actually, all these footage you are seeing are from me. So I hope to be going back soon and maybe vlogging it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And yeah, God bless, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.